Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today I'm chatting with Shaun Graham. Shaun is a scenic welder out in Los Angeles. The scenic industry is an area often overlooked as a pathway for many welders. Scenic welders get to build some crazy cool things. If you've ever been to an amusement park, museum, movie set, or a theme park, you've no doubt seen things produced by scenic welders. Within this industry, workers fabricate and bring crazy cool projects to life. Shaun and I talk about his start in the industry, some of the cool tools he's worked with, and some of the cool projects he's been a part of. We'll get right into the show after a quick word from our supporters. Today's episode of the ARC Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Fronius USA. One of the greatest potential threats we face as welders is welding and cutting fumes and particulates. The best thing you can do to mitigate exposure is to eliminate contact with the fumes and particles with a fume extractor. Fronius has recently released their mobile fume extractor called the Exento. I've been using the Exento for a few months now, and it's been a great addition to my shop. The Exento is offered in a 120 volt and a 230 volt version as well, and it's super powerful. It has an impressive 9.5 foot reach from the base of the unit, it's easy to push around the shop, and replacing the filters is ridiculously easy. Fronius also has a high vac system as well that you can capture fumes right at the gun. Check out both systems at Fronius USA for more information by going to their website, fronius.com. We're also brought to you by CK Worldwide, the standard in TIG welding. CK Worldwide has been leading the charge in all things gas tungsten arc welding since 1967. That's over 5 decades of innovations. When it comes to any issue with TIG welding, CK Worldwide has your solution. They have a torch for every situation and application to include standard heads, flex lock 360 rotating heads, which is my favorite, micro torches, pencil torches, and many more. In addition, CK offers gas saver kits, silicon nitride cups, which are tougher and more durable than the standard pink alumina cups we're all familiar with using. Check out CK's products firsthand by going to ckworldwide.com and hitting the Find a Dealer tab to locate a distributor near you and find out why CK Worldwide is the standard in TIG welding. We're also brought to you by Outlaw Leather. We all know Outlaw makes some badass custom leather welding hoods, arm pads, bolt bags, rod pouches, and more, but Outlaw is also a one-stop shop for all things welding to include hand tools, layout tools, PPE, welding gloves, pipe fitting tools, ironworker tools, and much more. They also have a section on their website for student essentials if you're just getting started in the industry. Check out outlawleather.com and explore everything they have to offer. And if you need a custom hood, just shoot them an email, info@outlawleatherllc.com, and let them turn your concept into a reality. And as a special bonus for listeners of the ARC Junkies podcast, you can save 15% off on all in-stock handmade leather goods when you use ARC Junkies in the discount box at checkout. That's outlawleather.com. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hoods, and turn me up 5.
Thank you for downloading show number 323 of the ARC Junkies Podcast.
You're listening to the ARC Junkies Podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
Shaun, welcome to the ARC Junkies Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. I appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, man. I know we talked, when was it? A couple months ago, I think we bumped into each other on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was. I think it was about 3 or 4 months ago, somewhere around there.
And then you took to Instagram like shortly after that, right?
Yeah, I think probably about a month or so after I talked to you, I ended up jumping on Instagram, and I'm slowly been starting to post some more stuff on there and put my work out there a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed because like we were chatting before and you said you did like scenic work and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, cool. But I'd never really seen it. And then as soon as your Instagram page popped up, I was like, holy shit. Like you do some like legit cool stuff as far as like, you know, scenic and you know, design work and all that stuff.
I appreciate that. I got lucky when I got into welding. It was about 10 years ago, and it was working for a scenic fabrication shop, doing stuff for amusement parks and museums and stuff like that. So I really got immersed into that really early on, and also gave me a lot of experience in more than just mild steel. You know, we worked with stainless, aluminum, you know, rolling metal, you know, so it really kind of was a great jumping off point for me.
Yeah, the scenic world, I mean, that's a space that a lot of people really don't think about when it comes to welding. It's an industry that kind of gets overlooked quite a bit. But I mean, there's so much welding that goes on. I mean, especially, I know you're out in California. You got a lot of theme parks out there. We've got a lot here in Florida, and like your Universals, your Disneys, your Busch Gardens, SeaWorlds, like all these different Legoland. They all have these scenery pieces or whatever, and props and all that stuff. So you got to build things that are kind of larger than life or blown up, and like you really got to. It's different than structural fabrication. It's different than pipe welding. It's different than pressure piping or anything else like that. When people think welding, they automatically think buildings or pipe or something to that effect. They don't think about the scenery aspect. And I've had a lot of different artists on the podcast, and they kind of do that on the side. And it's like whatever they're coming up with, or maybe they're commissioned by a client. But I mean, the theme parks, they hand you a set of prints and they're like, here, build this.
Yep.
And you got to really get creative with how you're going to shape and mold and form and twist and, contort this metal and still be structurally sound because of all the people that are going to be hanging off of it and jumping on it, even though they're not supposed to, or, interacting with the piece. It's a really cool section of the industry that most people they don't even know about. They don't even know it exists.
No, they don't. In fact, I didn't know it existed. I kind of, like I said, I was lucky. I fell into it. I knew I wanted to get into welding. I had taken some classes, and I knew a couple people that were working at a shop, and they happened to be, a Scenic fabrication shop. So I was lucky. I'm so glad that I did find it, because I had never heard of anything like that, nor did I really think about it. But, doing things for amusement parks, like I did, it was what, 3.5 years of stuff for Star Wars Land for Disneyland. And when you're doing stuff for them, you're making at least 3 of the same thing at one time. One for whatever location it is, one for storage, and then one for Disney World in Orlando. But being able to create some of the things that we get to create, it's insane, and you were touching on having to still have things structurally sound when you're having to bend them or shape them or what have you. There was pipes that I had to bend by hand, that I had to take a torch with and just slowly, 1/8 inch, 3/16 plate that I was rolling into 3-foot wide, pieces of pipe. Just scenery, but still, it teaches you a lot. And you really start to see and feel what the metal that you're working with is doing and how it reacts to the different processes that you're using while you're manipulating it.
Yeah, and every alloy reacts quite differently. Like steel, it doesn't care. It's pretty forgiving. You heat it up, you bend it, you can bend it back. Stainless, not so much. You can start cooking out some of the chromium and nickel in there. And the thing with aluminum, like I've had to heat and bend aluminum sometimes. The problem with aluminum is it gives no indication that it's hot.
No, it doesn't.
It's like solid, and then all of a sudden, poop, it's liquid.
Yep. It doesn't change color. In fact, I've been wanting to do a little bit more diving into it, but with blacksmithing, doing aluminum, they actually, I believe they use pine to rub on the top of the aluminum when it's hot, and depending on the color of smoke is the correct temperature in which to start working with it. And
yeah, I seen a guy that was doing that. They were going to bend. I think he was making. He was going to make some feathers out of aluminum angle iron, and that's what he was doing. He heats it up, and like you can't leave it in the forge long at all. So I mean, he put it in there 5 to 10 seconds, pull it back out. Same thing. He had like a 2x4, a pine 2x4, and was rubbing it on there, waiting. And I guess once it goes slick, because I guess there's resistance on it. Once that thing just slides across there, super slick, it's ready to start being worked.
That's crazy.
And then you got to maintain that. Like, who the hell figured that out?
Right? How did you stumble upon that?
Yeah. I like steel because I can use a temple stick or something like that,
Yeah. No, I love being able to see what the different materials, how they react to things, and being able to see it take shape, I mean, it's kind of crazy to be able to take raw, flat, simple materials and turn them into something that helps to create happy memories. You know what I mean? Like, think about all the hands that created all the amusement parks and museums and other attractions that are out there. Like, if it wasn't for the scenic aspects of it, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting or as enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it'd just be buildings at that point and paint.
Right. Yeah. You know, and it helps to really, I feel being in that industry, it really kind of helps to round you out a little bit because you are working with numerous different materials, different processes, in and out of position, both on a table, floor, up, in the air, what have you. So it gives you a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge to be able to obtain doing scenic elements and stuff, I feel.
Yeah. And you learn super fast. I mean, and it's all about like troubleshooting. That's the hard
Mm-hmm.
part of building that stuff is it's not like anything else that you can't just go over to the shear it down to size, punch a couple holes in it, line it up dead center, square, level, and then weld it out. It's never
Yeah.
anything like that. It's always something, completely obscure. Like I had to build these, I built these monkeys for the Polynesian, or not the Polynesian, the Tiki Room over at Magic Kingdom. And
Uh-huh.
they had to, they gave me this fiberglass mold that was cut in half. So it's like you sandwich this monkey together. And they said, on the inside, we want you to, we need a square tube frame, to follow the shape. And it's got to fit inside of the sandwich when it's done. It's got to be, it's got to hold
Right.
weight. And we're going to run, I think they were running propane lines through it after the fact. So I was like, man, why can't we just use tube? They're like, nope. Or like pipe. They're like, nope, it's got to be square tube. Because tube or pipe, like I could have bent. I could have worked that. But with the square tube, I had to miter cut. There was like 60 different miter cuts, and some of them were compound miter cuts. And I think there was like 5 monkeys that I had to build. So it took me a week just to do the template for the first one, just to get everything to fit inside of this monkey. And it was like, it was a pain in the ass, but it taught me so much about, what your tools are capable of. Because you think about a saw, it cuts 90s, 45s, anywhere in between those measurements, or 0 to 45, anywhere in between those measurements. But when you got to do like compound miters, because this was like it was like 1.5 by 1.5 by 3/16 wall stainless. And so I had to get super creative because the only thing we had in the shop to cut this thing with was either a cutoff wheel, a portaband, or just a regular horizontal bandsaw.
Yeah.
And so like I had to get creative with that thing. So I'm building like little jigs because, I got these small pieces that I can't get them to clamp in there. So I'm building clamps for the clamps to get in there and be able to cut this thing up and get all the right angles and measurements, and then, tack it all together and make sure it fits. Okay, now I got to take it all back apart and then figure out how to replicate every single one of those parts again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is a challenge all the way along. It makes you think, and it makes you really. I think it also helps you to really plan out what you're doing. Because it's not plug and play. Everything is different, so you really do have to plan out your cuts and where things are going to go. And even when it comes to your welding and your weld sequencing, certain things you're going to have to weld prior to being able to weld the entire thing up because of, potential issues of access and whatnot. So, it's that's one of the things I love about it is the constant thinking and analyzing and troubleshooting of it, and especially when you're getting into compound, miters and, different things like that. I've built numerous trees for zoos and, for a mall as well, and all those are kind of organic and flowing, and it's the same thing. You got to replicate something that is unique, and you can't put it into a simple jig, so it takes some effort.
Yeah, there's no square and plumb when it comes to nature.
No, not at all. And at that point, it really is about knowing your material and being able to kind of see where it's going to go prior to you making those cuts or those bends. You really have to plan that out, and that takes experience. You need to know by bumping, the roller or the bender just a little bit, it's going to give it, just that 1/4 of an inch that you need to be able to have that nice smooth transition.
Well, then you got to compensate for springback too, which is always a pain in the ass because
Yeah.
again, the different alloys, they all have different springbacks, the different thicknesses of material. They got different springbacks. So the amount you have to overbend it so that when you take it out of the tool and it releases and it relaxes, it's hitting the exact mark you need.
Exactly. I mean, it's a constant thing, and that's something that I tell my guys is to focus on the process. And, even when we're just building simple frames, get into the habit of having the process, because when you're working on more complex things, it's really easy to forget steps. It's really easy to, get lost. And by continuing to have the same process and going through it, it becomes repetition, and it gets easier, and it makes you more efficient.
Yeah. Now, do you take notes when you're doing your fab builds?
Not a whole lot, no. Don't really take hardly any notes when I'm, I do a decent amount just in my head. Certain things I will jot things down and kind of figure things out, but it also kind of depends on the build that we're doing. Recently we haven't been doing anything too crazy. We've been doing a lot of frames for like large LED monitors for different awards ceremonies and different things like that.
Okay.
So
now, when you first got into this industry, you said you came right out of welding school, so did you have any metalworking experience outside of the basic stuff you probably learned in school?
No, I didn't. And in fact, I was waiting to start the semester for welding when I got the job. So I ended up getting the job and starting about, I think it was like a week or two before starting classes. But no, I've always kind of worked with my hands, help buddies with cars and stuff. And, I used to do windows and doors and siding. And, so I've always kind of had construction in my background. I just knew that welding was my thing. I got a taste of it when I was younger, and I loved it. I got the job by taking less money, actually. I went in there and I knew I wanted to be there. I took $15 an hour to be able to start sweeping the floor and cleaning things up, but it got me in the door, and it got me around guys that knew what they were doing. And while I was sweeping and cleaning up, I was looking and paying attention to what they were doing. And once I was done with what I needed to do, hey, bro, why'd you do that? Like, I saw you doing this. What were you doing that for? That doesn't make sense, I just started soaking it in as much as I could.
Now, were the guys at the shop, were they pretty welcoming when it come to like sharing knowledge and information with you?
Oh yeah, and at least in my experience, that's how it's always been. You show that you're hungry and that you're eager and you're wanting to learn and you're putting in the effort. I haven't seen anyone not be willing to give knowledge and want to help out. It's one of the things that I really love about being in the trades, is the camaraderie that a lot of us do have, and that there really are a lot of guys out there that, are willing to share their own little, secrets that they've learned along the way. But, it takes you wanting to be eager and, put yourself out there, ask those questions. I didn't care. I wanted to learn, so I didn't care if they were going to give me shit. I wanted to know, and I proved it with hard work. How are you going to not help someone out if they're busting their ass for you? And at the same time, they're asking good questions. It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
I feel.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. A lot of the folks that when I went out, got into that area, they were pretty welcoming, and they helped me out quite a bit and helped me, avoid a lot of different mistakes. Because I'd be set up to do something. They'd be like, "Hey, before you do that, there's an easier way." It's like, "Oh, cool, thank God." But I mean, they'll sit back and let you struggle for a minute and watch the wheels turn until they really need to step in and kind of give you that guidance.
Oh yeah, and that's needed. You need to be able to learn too. You need to be able to remember those mistakes just as much as the successes. That's how you learn. I'll be sitting back watching my guys doing something, knowing that it's going to bite them in the ass in a minute. But I've reminded them numerous times. This is a point like, okay, I'm going to watch you fight it, and then you're going to realize, and then you're going to have to go back and fix it. That's usually when they stop making that mistake.
Yeah, then it's burned in their brain at that point because now that they've got a memory,
Exactly.
they've got a memory of the last time that they did that, and they're like, okay, yeah, did this before.
Hmm.
Don't do it like that.
Exactly.
Now, what are some of the projects you've been able to work on throughout your years there?
Well, at the last shop, I did a lot of stuff for for Star Wars. Did some stuff for Nintendo and cars. Did some stuff for some different museums and some malls out there. And then at this shop that I'm at now, I'm done the Oscars for a few years now. I've done work for That's My Jam. Built the entire set for that. Um, Numerous other shows, awards that have gone on. We've done. I did a commercial or slash not commercial, but a gig for Prime, where we burnt a $500,000 bottle of gold.
Dude, what?
Yeah, yeah. Prime did this contest where they burnt a solid gold bottle of gold that was worth $500,000, and the contestants had to pick numbers, and if they got the code right, they would win the bottle. And there was two of these machines. One of them was in London, one was in New York, and whoever won the other machine, that bottle would get destroyed. It was going to get lowered into a vat of molten copper. And I got brought in when things were a little slow. I got brought in to do that at a different shop, and I got to test pouring copper, and almost blew myself up on that one actually. And we actually did get to get one of the bottles, and we got to burn $500,000 worth of gold. It was pretty sweet.
Damn, that's kind of neat, but I mean that also sucks because it's 500 grand down
Yeah,
the drain.
yeah. Well, they I'm sure they're going to be, they can separate
Reclaim it
would
somehow.
cost some money, and they're going to have to, I'm sure there's going to be some lost in the, reclaiming process, but they'll get most of it back, but it'd be a hassle. I mean, when it was all said and done, it was just copper. It was just a copper mess,
Mhm.
but it looked badass. It was cool. And, I mean, it's not every day you get to destroy $500,000. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
Damn, that's something to put on your resume.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys use like any sort of like technology, or do the companies just bring you a set of prints and a concept and just say, "Hey, here's what we're looking for"?
Now they just they come with a concept and idea. They might have some sort of computer renderings or somewhat of a design, but we usually in-house do the design work and stuff. I've actually, since getting the plasma table here about a year ago, I've really gotten into more of the drawing aspect and working in CAD and doing some of that. So yeah, we have a lot more freedom at this shop in terms of the creation of it, and the whole aspect of it, how we're going to be building it, what we're going to be using, so I kind of like that. It's nice to have that kind of freedom. At the other shop, everything was 6 to 8 months of already being in the hands of drafters and engineers, and if you had a problem with something, it had to get redlined, brought back up, and you couldn't make any kind of decision. So
Yeah, that's the hard part of doing all that stuff is now you get to a point you want to keep going, and now you got to wait. You got to submit the RFI
yeah,
and wait for a response, and I mean that could take days, weeks, and then you like, okay, well now I got to completely shift gears and start working on this other project over here that my mind's not wrapped around that one just yet, and then bouncing back and forth when that information comes back to you.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So not having to do that is definitely nice now. And it's helping me to be able to continue to expand, in the knowledge of, fabrication and welding and building, being able to work on the computer is nice to be able to get the ideas out of my head and to be able to see how realistic things may or may not be, you know.
Now, what program are you using for that?
For the most part, I'm using Fusion 360.
Okay.
I do use Rhino a little bit. I've got some learning to do with Rhino, but I'm fairly good at Fusion. I've already done quite a few things. Actually just finished designing a golf putter that looks like brass knuckles for someone who wanted me to build it for him. So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So yeah, it's something like that, you know, being able to have someone say, hey, you know, I want brass knuckles, but I want it to be a putter. Is that something you can do? Like, I wouldn't have thought that I could have done that very easily, but having the experience with the computer, with CAD, you know, that makes it easier to get out of my head and make it a reality.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, how long did it take you to use or to learn Fusion 360?
It took a little while. You know, I'm still learning certain aspects. I'm sure I do things improperly or inefficiently, but they're the ways that I know how to do them and that I can remember and do them quickly. But it really didn't take too long to be able to learn that. I've had some experience in the past with like Photoshop and stuff like that throughout the years. So, you know, kind of fell naturally somewhat to me. But yeah, you know, I would highly recommend any welders or fabricators out there looking to getting their hands into it a little bit, because it'll definitely help you to see things differently.
I got to start messing around with that one. And the reason I ask is because I want to, like, I've got a CNC plasma table at my shop, and I just want to find, like, I think they use it's a Siemens software, and I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around the logic of it. So I want to find something a little bit better, but you can do 2D renderings in Fusion 360, right?
Yeah. And in fact, the reason I have Fusion 360 is because the plasma table that I decided to go with for our shop is a Langmuir, and they run off of Fusion.
Okay.
Their software is compatible with it. So that's, you know, I started learning Fusion when I got the plasma table, and, you know, being able to create and bring in different images, even just for sheet goods, you know, fire pits or, you know, different sign cutouts, things like that. You know, it does a really great job.
Yeah, I want to start messing around with it more, because like when I was teaching over at the college that I was at, I never really had we just got a brand new Swift Cut CNC plasma cutter, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. And I think I had about maybe 10 hours on the system, and you know, because like I never had time to go. They're like, hey, we need these cut up. We got an event coming up, and we want the school mascot. And I was okay. I'd go over there and like figure it out and fumble through it and get it done. But I never got proficient at it. And now I've got one sitting in my shop that, it sat there for a while. We had to get the air hooked up to it, and then we had to get the power hooked up, and then like all that stuff. So, now it's up and running, and I'm building a TIG wire cart right now. So I have my buddy actually draw that up, and he uses a program called ViaCAD.
Okay.
I tried that one before. It's okay. I think it's like $40. It's not bad. But I think I can't remember. It might just be Mac only. I can't remember. But yeah, I want to find something, because I want to start doing some more cutting in the shop and more fabrication. One thing I'd like to do is start building like the little project kits for the students. You know, so when they come in Monday through Thursday, we practice on all the different welding processes, and then by Friday, you know, they get like a little kit to build. Because you can build these small kits that are like 10 inches by 10 inches, 10 inches tall or something like that. And there's over like 280 linear inches of weld on these things. So it's really cool to be able to go through and, give them a project instead of just lap joints, fillet joints, T-joints, outside corner, inside corner, groove welds, all that stuff. Be like, here, this is a project. Let's go ahead. Let me show you how to tack things up, measure it out, lay it out, maybe do some blueprint stuff. Nothing, earth shattering, but, just get them into building something.
Yeah. That's something that, I'll have guys that'll come up and I'll say, hey, can you teach me how to weld? Can you, give me some pointers? Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you think about a project, something that you'd want, an end table or, a step stool or something like that you can use. And then I'll sit down and we'll go over the whole thing. It's something that I think is a great way for people to be able to learn, is to actually give them something as a project, as an end result, especially if it's something that they're going to utilize. They're going to retain that information that much easier and that much quicker.
No, for sure. And between a plasma cutter and, a welder, you can build a lot of really cool stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's really, at this point, I'd love to be able to get a mill and a lathe and maybe a piranha, but at that point, you could really build anything, you'd be able to bend, shape, do whatever you wanted, but just having the plasma has really opened up so much more, especially for some of the things that we do. Like I said earlier, recently we've been building a lot of big frames for LED monitors, for huge LED walls. A lot of the different vendors, they use different monitors. It's not all the same, so it's not a set standard for what monitor we're going to get. So how are we going to be able to attach it? So each one's a little bit different. Well, with the plasma table, I've been able to go onto the computer, drop some brackets, unique brackets, go over to the brake, bend the brackets up, weld them, and now we've got some adjustable brackets to be able to be more universal, not only in the shop, but also for the install, for the guys that are going to have to do adjusting and or servicing of any of these units. So, it's a very powerful tool to have in a shop, especially if you utilize it.
Yeah, the possibilities are almost limitless with that thing.
Yeah.
And you could do steel, stainless, aluminum.
Mm-hmm. And then the machine, the setup that we have, we can cut up to 3/4 of an inch. Got a 4x8 sheet. The cut is clean. Yes, you've got a little bit of a bevel on your parts, because of the plasma, the shape of the plasma itself, the way it cuts, but it's very minimal and it's a clean edge. There's a lot of stuff that you don't even need to worry about cleaning the edge. You just clean the dross off on the back and you're pretty much good.
What plasma machine you guys run?
The Langmuir.
No, okay, so that's the actual plasma cutting unit?
Yeah, that's the. Oh no, the machine is. We got the Hypotherm 65.
Okay. Do you?
Yeah.
I was gonna, because I got the 45, the Power Max 45, and
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, if do you have a sync machine? Is it a Hypertherm sync?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if not, they have an adapter. You can take one of your old Power Max machines, you can retrofit it to become a sync unit.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, because I was running into cutting issues, and I was like, okay, screw this. And I was trying to recycle consumables, and I know I'm not supposed to, but I was trying to get this thing cut out. And then I got a hold of my rep, and he's like, you can put sync parts on there. And I was like, no, I don't have a sync. It's just a regular Power Max. And he's like, no, you can. There's an adapter, and then you can now use the sync cartridges. It's like, oh, okay. And then
they've got that for the 45.
Yeah. And so the parts that I was cutting out today, man, they cut freaking beautiful now that I've switched over and got that thing rocking. I had to call the rep a couple weeks ago, and they were able to remote access into my computer and set up the different heights to adjust for the offset, because now the cartridge is a lot, or it's not a lot, but a little bit taller than the previous one.
Oh yeah.
So you got to reset all your Z zeros.
Okay.
But yeah, it runs cool. Beautiful.
Is it just for machine mounted torches, or is it for handheld torches?
No, you can do it on. You should be able to do it on handheld torches as well, because the only difference is the mechanized torches are straight, and then the handhelds, they just got that 90-degree bend in it or whatever.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
So you should be able to do that. Sweet, it just doesn't register.
We got a 45 handheld at the shop, and it's an older one, so it's not a sync. So to get that would be sweet to have.
Yeah, and then, that makes, as soon as you start getting shit cut quality, you swap out the entire cartridge, and you're back in the game.
Oh, those, I'm so glad they came out with that. It's so much quicker, so much easier.
Yeah, but I know with so if you have the older unit, because the new sync unit, when you put a new cartridge in, you hit a button because I guess it'll track
Hmm.
all of your arc time and run time or something to that effect.
Hmm.
And it's got like little QR codes all over it. I don't think any of that matters if you use it on the older units because it doesn't have that technology. So you don't have to hit the
That
new
makes
sync
sense.
button to actually sync it up and let it know. You have to go back and manually set on your machine. Okay, this is a gouging tip. This is a cutting tip. This is a 45
Right.
amp tip, a 65 amp tip, whatever. You got to go. You have to set that up on the machine manually still.
That makes sense, though. That makes sense because it is just an adapter at the tip.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool. Sweet.
Yeah, man, it's technology.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, and you've already, you've got the robots welding. I want to get my hands on one of those one of these days and mess around with
Do you
one of those
guys?
Cobalts.
Yeah. Do you guys use any of that in your shop?
We haven't. That's something I could definitely see having a benefit and a place for, especially for some of the simple stuff, being able to set up in fixtures and whatnot. Um, but more so, honestly, I just would have a lot of fun programming it and
Playing with it.
messing with it and seeing what it could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the new
It'd be
cobots
fun
are
to
like
do.
super easy. From what I hear, they're super easy to learn. Because that
Really?
was the thing. Like I tried so back when I was teaching, I think it was probably like 2016. The school that I was working at, they got one of the robots, and I never had time to learn how to mess with it because the learning curve on it was super steep because you had to have a teach pendant, and you had to manually or you had to move the robotic arm through code. So you got, your
Oh,
X, Y,
okay.
Z axis. I mean, there's 6 different axes on this machine, and you have to move each one individually. And so now, like, it's super simple because there's a button on top. So you push that button, you literally grab the gooseneck and you drag it where you want it to start, and you hit the button, and then you program what function it's going to perform when it gets there. So like start weld, you push the button again, you drag it over, and here's the stopping point, stop, and then, run, boom, here's your voltage, wire feed speed, and it runs everything. Just you just showed it how to do. You literally showed it how to do it. You held it by its hand and walked it through step by step how to make that weld.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and some of them you can even operate from an iPhone. I know the
Oh,
system
wow.
that ReadyArc has, it's a cobot system. They can actually they rent those systems out, and so if you're
Mhm.
having problems, you can just call your tech support guy, and he can like troubleshoot it right there on his cell phone. He can just port right into your machine and be like, "Oh yeah, this line, this line's off a little bit. Tweak that. Okay, yeah, give that a shot."
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
it's
sweet.
insane.
Uh, have you gotten a chance to mess with any of the laser welders?
No, I want to. I really want to. I was trying to get with Everlast because I had Weld.com come out to the shop a couple weeks ago, and it was kind of short
Uh,
notice. I was like, "Would you guys be able to send a laser out there so we could do a video on that?" And it was the time window was too short. But
oh,
I do want to try messing around with one of those.
yeah, that's crazy. I want to see how much that really affects the metal. And I mean, I haven't seen anyone cut into any of the welds or
That's
do any kind of like
that's
testing or anything
exactly.
on it, has there?
No, I haven't seen
You know?
anybody. That's why. So like the CWI in me wants to get one. The welder in me wants to get one because I want to play with it, and I'm tired of
Yeah.
grinding mill scale off. So I can hit it with if I can hit it with a laser, way better. But what I would like to
Yeah.
do from an inspection standpoint is like do a lap weld, cut it apart, do some macros on it. Do some different bend tests, figure out exactly how strong these welds actually are.
Yeah. Because I haven't really seen a whole lot. I mean, granted, haven't gone too deep down that hole, but I really haven't seen a whole lot of testing or anything out on the structural integrity of it. So that's really curious on that.
That's kind of my main thing is I want to get one over at the shop, but I just can't come off the money for it right now. But to be able to get one in there and run a couple of fillet welds, do some butt welds, with and without filler metal, and just start testing welds, see how strong this stuff actually
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
But it's
That'll be
super quick,
interesting
and
to
I think
see.
the learning curve on it, once you figure out how to set the machine, it's like MIG welding, I guess, or TIG welding. Once you learn how to dial up and all your different parameters, it's supposed to be
Mhm.
pretty simple.
It seems like it would be. I can't really see it being too difficult. It seems almost like it'd be fairly plug and play, almost.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
the light weld company, they had theirs at FabTech up in at FabTech last year, and I wanted to try messing around with it. I was just going from one place to the next. I didn't get a chance to pop in there and play with it, but I think they were doing stainless, so it's pretty cool because
Okay.
you got a much lower heat input.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they were letting people demo it right there, and I'd walk by and I was like, oh man, maybe I could just
Wow.
pop in for a minute. Nope, line's too long. Go back the other way. Yeah, nope, still can't get in there.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
hopefully this year FabTech, I'm gonna track one down and try and play with one for a little bit
Oh yeah.
because FabTech will be in Orlando, so like right in my backyard.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You don't have to go far at all.
No, not really. Orlando's about 45 minutes from where I'm at, but I'll probably be staying in that area. I'll get a hotel during those 3-4 days, just because I don't want to
Okay.
be going back and forth, and you got all the after hours events and stuff like that. I mean, hell, even if when I have a hotel room, I'm not getting back to the room till like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then you're back up at 6-7 o'clock the next day to kick the show off again.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm hoping to make it out there this year. I'm hoping to take the family out, do a little bit of family time, and at the same time hit the show up. I've yet to go, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, it's definitely a good time. If you've never been, it's like a playground for welders.
That's what I've heard, and I've wanted to go for a while, and I've been putting it off, but I think I'm going to go this year.
Yeah, they got all kinds of different equipment. So I mean, like especially the area that you're in, for doing all these weird, wacky bends and twists and all that stuff. I mean, you'll have a heyday in there. They've got a machine
Oh
for
yeah, I can.
everything.
That I can't wait to be able to see some of the new discoveries that I know I'll be able to find. I'll be able to just again soak up that much more information and knowledge.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. It's and you get to meet a lot of interesting people too. So that's kind of one of the big benefits of FabTech. It's like every year it's like a big family reunion. So I get to see a lot of my friends that I haven't seen the rest of the year or since FabTech the previous year. So it's
Right.
always a good time to catch back up with everybody and bullshit and see how they're doing, what they're up to. I mean, you get to see them on social
Right.
media, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's through posts is a little bit different.
No, definitely. So now tell me about this garbage pail kid that you built, because that thing is freaking sick.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I had a lot of fun building it. I was listening to a podcast, an episode of the Fabricator podcast, and they had mentioned that someone should make a sculpture of garbage pail kids, something along those lines. And it just kind of made me think back to when I was a kid and, collecting the cards when I was younger. And I thought of Atom Bomb. And, I'm like, you know what? I could do that. I think it'd be pretty cool to do, and I just went for it. I wasn't quite sure how exactly I was going to do it at first. But I knew I wanted to have a nuke going off and blowing up out of his head. I ended up using epoxy resin for that, and then my guys over here at the shop helped me out with the lighting. Do some LEDs, so it's got a nice backlit LED that kind of flickers like it's a fire. But yeah, it just got kind of inspired by it and ran with it. It just all it really was all the different fabrication techniques that I've learned throughout my years of working. And that's kind of how I look at the art that I'm doing when I'm doing it is, okay, well, how am I going to create this shape or this look, for the head, for example. I wanted to do something different with the eyes, so I just took the torch and I heated up the areas for the eyes, and then I hit them in, with a hammer and shaped them that way so that they were a little inset. And then I took little, I think they were 1-inch metal spheres from, the metal supply shop, and I cut them in half and welded a little shaft onto them. And then I did some etching for, the eyeball itself, or the iris, and there you go. It looks cool, it looks crazy, but it's all simple, basic, fabrication techniques. It's just combined into one thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the shaping on the head looked. I mean that blew me away. I was like, how do you? That's one thing I've never done is just like try to make a sphere out of a flat sheet of metal.
Yeah, that sphere I didn't make that sphere. I have made half spheres and things like that, like on a English wheel. I actually made an English wheel specifically to make a separate face. It was a Michael Myers mask that I was doing. But yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of work to do that. Even buying the sphere and manipulating it and cutting it and using it in the way that I did was a lot of work in itself, but it's part of what I love about it. It's not easy to do, I mean, it takes work. It's hard, it's steel we're working with, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How long did that piece take you?
It probably took me about 100, 120 hours, give or take, somewhere around there. So not an insane amount of time. It was spread out, obviously, through a few months time, because I don't get the opportunity to do work on it all the time. So it's after hours project. But when it comes to stuff like that, I as much as I try to pay attention to the time, I also try not to pay attention to the time, because I sometimes don't really know exactly how I'm going to do what I'm trying to accomplish until I'm doing it. And, half the time I'm already realizing that I'm doing it the wrong way and I'm having to go back, yeah, it's just maybe just part of the process of, because when I'm doing the artwork, I don't draw anything out prior to doing it. I'm just, I've got maybe some reference photos that I'm looking at, but it's that and just kind of closing my eyes and figuring out where I got to put what.
All right, ladies and gents, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Everlast Welders. Everlast is still offering their bundle packs right now. So if you've been waiting for a sign to buy a new welder, this is it. They have MIG welders bundled with spool guns so you can get into that aluminum welding game. TIG machines with included carts and torch upgrades. Plasma units with included mechanized heads. Now is the time to save big on your next machine purchase. So don't wait. Head on over to everlastwelders.com and select the best deal for you and your current welding needs. And as always, if you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal, be sure to use Arc Junkies in the comments section at checkout to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back to the show. I think that's the biggest part about fabrication is to be able to take like a flat 2D image and kind of mentally render that and spin it around almost as if it was in something like Fusion 360 where you can kind of grab a corner and spin it and look. You got to be able to do that with, flat parts and try to literally wrap your head around that.
Yeah, you do. And it's something I didn't realize that I did for a long time. It was actually my old foreman at my last shop. He made a comment. He's like, you see how things kind of are going to go before they're doing it. And I realized, like, yeah, I kind of am. I don't really know how to explain that. Yeah. Like, I don't know how to explain that or even teach it to, like, my guys. I try to the best of my ability, but, that definitely is a huge benefit to fabrication, is having the ability to mentally manipulate it and mess with it.
Yeah, when I used to teach blueprints, that was one of the things. It was like, how do I how do you even explain that to somebody? So
Right.
I would, I'd have a print, and then I'd have an actual part, and then I would try to hold it up, and I was like, you see this? Well, imagine it's flat, even though this is a 3D object. That's the hard part. But then you
Hmm.
start twisting around and flipping it and everything, and then they slowly kind of catch on. But until you actually get out there and you start building things and seeing how things work, and what effect what you're doing now has on something later on down the road, um,
Hmm.
you slowly start to build that skill set. It's not something that you can like watch a YouTube video and figure out. I mean, it's a full contact sport. You got to get out there. You got to get your hands on it. You got to be able to do it, look at it, touch it, feel it, flip it.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I didn't, like I said, I didn't realize I did it, and maybe I didn't do it. And it was through the process of just fabrication and welding that I did end up realizing and coming around to it. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Now you said that you built the atom bomb or whatever after hours. Is that something you typically do as artwork on the side, or like scenic pieces on the side, or do you like weld and fabricate
Um,
outside of work also?
yeah, I used to do some side jobs here and there, like gates or what have you. Um, but I just it wasn't as enjoyable. Was I needed more of a challenge. And a few years back, I ended up having some skin cancer that I ended up having to have removed, and um, had to have some lymph nodes and stuff removed too. And while I was recouping and going through that, um, that's when I had really just started kind of getting into like art and realizing, okay, like I can actually do some cool stuff with what I've learned. Um, so it's only been a few years since I've been doing the art, but since then, it's my spare time is if I'm not with my family, I'm here at the shop, or mostly here at the shop. Sometimes at home in the garage, but I'm trying to work on projects more so art wise. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm doing a golf putter, that looks like brass knuckles. I've got a light fixture that's also a pot rack for one of my coworkers that I'm working on, um, and I'm looking for a another project to start. I'm thinking something in Super Mario realm. Um, thinking thinking probably Super Mario Brothers. I'm not quite sure what yet, but yeah.
That'd be kind of neat. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do with Mario Brothers. I mean, they've had so many different. You got Mario Kart. All the original games, Super Mario, all the spin-offs. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
content there to choose from.
Yeah, there is, and it's something that a lot of people can relate to too. Like I grew up playing Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo. You know what I mean? And I got a almost 2-year-old son now, and he loves the Super Mario Brothers movie. He wants to watch it all the time. So there's a lot to be able to pick from, and I mean, even just from watching that movie over and over again, I've got tons of ideas of things that I could make. You know, and it would be a challenge to be able to do them at a metal too.
Yeah, you definitely got to do Bowser.
I've thought about doing Bowser.
That'd be a good
Bowser's
one.
definitely one that I want to do. Absolutely, and I do want to do a shark of some sort, and I'm not sure what yet, but I do want to do at least some portion of the jaws and face of a shark. I'm still kind of working on that concept, but yeah.
Oh, really cool. Yeah, I think Mario Brothers would be a good one.
Yeah, yeah. It's I'm leaning right now in terms of Mario Brothers. I'm leaning it towards. There's a scene where he's pulling a fish off of his head when he's competing for the with the princess on the obstacle course or whatever, um, and it would be kind of crazy. It's a pretty much be Mario's body with his arms, pulling a fish off of his head. One of the cartoon flying fish things.
Okay, yeah, that's from the Mario Kart.
Yeah,
Yeah. That'd be kind of dope. And then the putter too. I think the putter with the brass knuckles. Are you gonna put photos of that on Instagram when you do it?
Yeah, I'm gonna put some photos up on that. I'm actually wrapping it up right now. Already, I know I'm gonna end up being asked to make some more, but I've got a better way of doing it this time than after doing it this time. I've got a couple of different options that I'm gonna go down, but it turned out pretty sweet. Did it all on a CNC. Went over to one of my buddy's shops and he was able to cut the file out for me. I designed that in Fusion 360, and then I took the a steel insert and was able to get it in nice and tight, good fit up for where the ball's going to be striking and to be able to get some weight. So yeah, but you'll see it soon. And probably within the next few days, I'll be posting some pictures and maybe a reel on that.
Yeah, I want to see that because I went and did a golf tournament. What was it, like 3 weeks ago? And so I've never played golf before, so this was like completely new for me. And I went out there, and one of my buddies, he loaned me a set of clubs, and I'll be damned if I didn't get freaking hooked on it. I didn't realize how technical golf was. Have you ever played?
I haven't. I've gone to a driving range a couple of times, and I almost hit people the first time I hit a golf ball. It went like, I don't even know how, but it went straight to the left. And yeah, golf was never my thing.
It's not mine either. I'm thinking about, like, I think I'm hooked now because, like, I've already been pricing out clubs and, checking shit out. Like I said, it was really fun. I mean, it was hot as hell, but it was really fun. But it's super technical, but it's very similar to welding. Whereas, like, when you flip your hood down, everything else in life goes away. It's kind of like archery too. Like, but when you get up there on the tee, like, everything else is just dead silent. Nothing else matters. And then you go to, and like, I used to give golfers shit all the time. I'm like, why would I want to dress up, wear funny clothes and go out there and smack a little white ball and go pilfering through the woods for it all day? But yeah,
right.
It was a freaking blast, man. And there's like so many different clubs to choose from, and every club's got a different purpose, and like learning all the rules and stuff. I was like, this is actually pretty fun. I could see myself doing this.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. And I mean, I could see the allure to it. Maybe a few years down the road, I might give it a shot, but I don't know. It seems a little too slow paced for me. I don't know that I'd be able to.
It can be. I think we knocked out 18 holes in probably 4 hours.
Okay.
So it was a pretty, like I said, it was a pretty neat experience. It was a lot of fun. I had never done it before, but I was like, it's for a good cause. It was for charity and stuff like that. I was like, yeah. And we got to ride in the golf cart. So, I mean, that's fun. So you just like, I mean, it's literally pretty fast paced. I thought it was going to be super slow and just kind of walking the course. No, you whack the ball and then you go chase it down in the cart and then you go whack it again. And it was like, we did a 4-man team. So it was whoever had the best hit, you kept score that way. So it was like 4 people essentially hitting one ball, but like you just everybody gets to hit their ball every time, and whoever's is the most advanced or whatever or further along, that's the score that you keep. So it was kind of cool.
That's fun. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, we pretty much hit par on every course except for like 1 or 2. We got below par, and then a couple other ones I think we were over par on 1 or 2 holes. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That sounds like a good time.
So I was looking at all the different putters because everybody that was there, that like my buddy, he loaned me some shit from back in the 80s, which, it's still good gear to this day. But like some of the stuff that they were pulling out of their bags with their putters, and I was like, what in the hell is that? I mean, it doesn't even look like a golf putter. So I could see where you could do like a a set of brass knuckles and it work and still have the same shape and function and stuff. I know Rush Kane, he got really big into, I guess, like refurbishing and rehabbing different golf putters. And a lot of them are titanium. I don't know if you've seen him, but he re-welds them and stuff. It's super cool.
I've seen a couple of his videos and stuff on. I didn't realize until recently that he had gotten into golf like that. But yeah, he's gotten into it, and the form in this case, it definitely works with the brass knuckles. But I mean, you could really do it with a lot of different designs. I mean, it's not like it's a performance club. It's as obviously going to be something for having some fun when they're out there. You know what I mean? A conversation
Oh,
piece,
for
but
sure.
I don't know about doing a 9-iron with brass knuckles.
No,
I don't
no,
know
that
how
probably
that
wouldn't work.
would work.
No, they're like every club is just it's different. Everyone serves a different purpose, and if you grab the wrong one, I mean, like I suck at golf already. Like I don't need any help getting any worse. So like club selection was paramount all day. I was always asking like, which club should I use for this? Okay, how about this one? Okay, yep. Okay, got it. All right, yeah. That,
Well, make sure you've got your grip right, and
oh yeah,
you don't roll your wrist or any of that. You'll be shanking it left or right.
yeah. I think out of the whole 18 holes that we hit, I might have hit like 6 good shots, which it's not bad, but
Hey,
I, I,
no, that
I
ain't bad.
definitely want to go back to Top Golf and brush up on driving the ball a little bit better, and then like the wedges and all that stuff. I'm always worried that I'm just gonna like smack the ground and bend the club, but I think that's like the
Hmm.
point. That's what you're supposed to do with those. Is you're supposed to scrape the ground and kind of scoop that ball up instead of hit it. And I was trying to like
Yeah,
I don't want to screw up the club, so I was like, all right,
right.
so. But no, it's a lot of fun if you get a chance. Like go out there and give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot one of these days.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a good event for like the AWS sections. That was. Were you able to link up with I think Marina and Mike?
I have not been able to link up with Marina. I have talked to Mike a couple of times. We haven't gotten together or done anything yet, but I have linked up with him.
Okay, because you're pretty close to LA, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like 20 miles from downtown,
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah, their section is usually. I mean, it's very very active.
Okay.
So I know they
Yeah,
they
I'm
do
gonna.
welding competitions and stuff like that all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm definitely gonna have to reach out to her then.
but yeah, they do a lot of good events, and like she's like I said, super active. And then Mike, I think Mike started with him a couple years ago. He runs the No More Locked Doors program, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, they help
yeah,
inmates learn how to weld so that when they get released from prison, they can get enter the workforce.
yeah. What he's doing is really badass. I really respect that, and that's really cool what he's putting together for. I can say for myself, welding definitely was a huge part in me being able to continue to turn my life around. Before I got into welding, I had crashed my life to the ground. So, being able to find and do something that I love to do has, been very transformative for me. It's been way more than just a paycheck, and so, a foundation like his, that's exactly what he's being able to give to all those guys, and that's just freaking insane.
Yeah, and I mean that's sometimes that's what people need. They need to find a purpose.
Uh, yeah, it definitely was for me. It's definitely, um, like I said, it was a huge thing for me, and it helped me to find my purpose, and it helped me to learn a lot of other lessons along the way too, so yeah, it's what he's doing is really cool. He's got a good thing going on there.
You think that welding kind of gives you an outlet too?
Oh, it absolutely does. My mind does not ever stop going. I've got ADD, and I had learning disabilities all through school, was in resource and whatnot, and um, you know, welding and metal, um, working with metal and fabricating, and those are things that calm me down. That they're things that slow my mind down, and they're it helps me to be able to be more present and in the moment. Um, Most of the time, like I said, with my head spinning as much as it does, different thoughts, ideas, and thinking and analyzing things. Like, I'm in the room, but I'm not necessarily always present. It's hard for me to relax, and you know, um, being able to do the type of work that I do is not only does it slow my mind down, but at the same time, it's giving my mind what it needs. It's giving that work and that wanting to analyze things and figure things out, the problem solving. That's what I'm doing while I'm working. So it's hoping to not stimulate me quite so much and help to get rid of some of the energy that I tend to always have. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I was going through that the past couple of days because, like, if I have to sit in front of a computer, it drives me absolutely nuts, and my mind is wandering all over the place. Like, because I'm not really, I'm into the work, but I'm like I'm not really into the work. Whether it's writing up a welding procedure, or I mean that helps quite a bit because I can. That's constantly giving me a challenge, to go
Mm-hmm.
from like one set to the next, and like solving problems. Those are fun, but like when I have to do like emails or invoicing or like edit the podcast or any of that stuff, like my mind is just constantly all over the place, and I'm thinking about 1,000 other things that I also have to get done. But the cool thing was
Right.
like today, I went into the shop with the intention of I'm not even turning the computer on. Like I wanted to build this rod cart, and I've been wanting to build it for a while, and I've had the pieces cut out for damn near a month now, sitting up on the plasma table, and I had like one more part to cut out. And so I got into the shop today and I just suited up and just went to work. And it was so freaking, I didn't want to stop, but like I was like, oh, I've got to stop at some point because I got to get home. But I just wanted to keep working on this damn thing. And the challenge, just getting everything, just getting back into fabrication, getting my mind
Mm-hmm.
back into that gear to be able to build something and then, weld it out. And it's still not done. I've got some more work and stuff that I got to do to it. But now I'm already thinking like, what else can I build? I think that's going to be like my, like I don't know, it's gonna like a not a muse or whatever. It's gonna be like a break for me. I want to try to set that up
Mm-hmm.
like once or twice a week to where I can just go in the shop and build something because I just haven't had the time to do that or the space to be able to do it. But now that I've got the school, I've got the equipment, I've got the material, just go in there and just build shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's a huge stress reliever and great way to be able to just kind of come back down to reality. I same way. I really enjoy and in fact do get lost in some of the computer work that I'm doing in terms of the designing on CAD and whatnot. But even enjoying it as much as I do, I have to be down there and I've got to have metal in my hands and a grinder in my hand and have my hood on at some point because it's just there's something therapeutic about it. It's just it goes to reading the material and feeling it and just kind of being.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun too. I mean, the troubleshooting aspect of it and like the thinking. I'm always like, regardless of what I'm putting together or, tacking up or welding out or cutting or whatever, I'm already 3 steps ahead of myself in the building process, trying to sequence this whole thing out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
make sure I put this part's got to go in first before this one, because if I put that one in first, it's going to screw me on this. So, like, thinking everything through as you're going through. And it was very kind of therapeutic for me at the moment with it, with everything
Mm-hmm.
I got going on. It was nice just to be able to tune everything out. I just put the music on, I put my ISOTUNES in my head. I was just blaring freaking music all day and just jamming out and cutting shit up and welding it out and getting it done. And it was a lot of
Oh
fun. And
yeah.
I felt 20 times better when I left the shop today because and you also get that sense of accomplishment that I built something
Mm-hmm.
or I did something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't get that same effect when I, upload a podcast or, hit the send button on an email. It just doesn't have the same effect.
No, it doesn't. You're absolutely right. And even if you go in there and you're kind of having a bad day, by the time you leave, not only are you feeling better, you've also got that, like you said, that sense of accomplishment. So you're just that much further away from whatever negativity it was that you were dealing with when you walked in.
Yeah. And you can work through some shit too while you're doing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've had trouble sleeping. I going through insomnia, whatever, and I'll just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to go to the shop, and I'll just go to the shop and just work through my tiredness, and it to me, being in the shop and working with metal is it's like my happy place. You know, it really is.
Yeah, I really enjoy the fabrication aspect and the welding part. I mean, and I don't know which one I enjoy more. Like, the welding's like that's the fun part, you know. Well, I mean, the fabrication is the fun part too. But I think those two just together, because I mean, there's been times where
Yeah.
it's, I know that I just need to get out in the shop, and so I'll just go out there
Hmm.
and just rip through some coupons and weld those out, and it kind of that works. But I like I need that troubleshooting, that critical thought. I think that kind of tends to pull me back and allow me to focus a little bit harder on some different things.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. No. It does, and it is nice sometimes to just have some simple parts that are not really having to think too much about, and you're just running beads and you know listen to some music, and that sometimes is all it takes, and that's great. But yeah, I kind of would have to agree. It's a combination of the two. It's the cutting, the grinding, the shaping. Getting the fit up right, making sure it's square, plumb, or whatever it is that you're doing. Making sure your angles are right. Realizing that you screwed up, and how are you going to fix it because you took too much off here.
Yeah, I had to I had to come up with or actually re-ream some of the holes, because, like I said, the consumables that I was using originally to cut the parts out, they didn't.
Hmm.
Some spots didn't cut the cleanest, so I was in there with a deburring bit, cleaning everything out, and getting that, just so,
Yeah.
because I've got a square tube that has to sleeve through 3 different tiers, so everything had to line
Okay.
up like perfectly. Otherwise, it's not going to go together, because they all kind of
Right.
interlock, and so I had to go back through and make some adjustments and fix some previous mistakes, when I should have just, as soon as I saw it wasn't cutting right, just stop, wait for the next day, go get the right consumables. But I was like, no, I'm going to power through this, and I'll figure it out. No,
Yep.
it's not as forgiving.
No. No. It usually ends up making you take another step back when you go that route.
Yep. So now I know better for the next time. I've got spare consumables this time. So
Yeah, definitely gotta make sure, especially if you're in a deadline, that you've got the materials, whatever it is that you're needing on hand. There's been far too many times, unfortunately, where I've been caught with my pants down on a job because I didn't have the right thing and had to do the same as you.
mhm.
But you learn from it, and you end up figuring out some tricks along the way too.
Yeah. Now, speaking of timelines, do they typically, these theme parks and stuff, do they give you like ample enough lead time to be able to build some of this stuff? Because I know that when I was doing it, everything was a rush job, last minute. We got to get this thing done. So we did a lot of overtime doing that work.
For me, when I was doing that, no, we didn't get a whole lot of overtime at all. We had plenty of time. I think I'd mentioned, for doing stuff for Star Wars Land, that was about 3 years of doing it every day, stuff for them. And then there were deadlines that needed to be met for certain pieces, needed to go out at certain times and whatnot, but it wasn't strenuous. I mean, we even had other projects that were going on top of. I mean, at that shop we had 25 welders in the metal department, so we cranked through a lot of metal there. Um, Now, when I'm doing stuff for shows and for film, the timeline is much quicker. That was actually a huge adjustment for me, coming from where I did to here. Having that ample time and having the drawings already done and figured out, and to engineering, to having a 2 week time frame and getting just a simple drawing slash concept from a client. My OCD and wanting to be perfect and do it the right way, it took some getting used to and figuring out how to make it feasible. But it's not an insane amount of time. There are, when we're really busy, we'll do 12s every day. That can be kind of hard. There have been times where we've had to do 24-hour days, 25-hour days. Um, you but for the most part, the timelines they're tight, but they're not insane for what they're asking for.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of the shutdowns and rehabs, so it was always like a
Okay.
short window, and we always got everything like very last minute. So by the time you get the material and the consumables and the parts and stuff in, like you really got to shit and get.
So you probably were more along the next step in what I would have been doing. It would have gone from me to then you guys, because you guys sounds like were the ones that were installing the stuff at the locations at times,
Yeah,
right?
we would fab and then we would install, but sometimes like we would do the fab work, and then we'd have to pass it
Okay.
off to like the fiberglass crew or the gel coat crew.
Yep.
And so, but that's the thing too, is you got to look on the print about, okay, it's supposed to be, 2-inch OD after the fact. Okay, it's going to get 1/2 inch of fiberglass, this, that, and everything. So now you just have to start subtracting the
Mm-hmm.
actual final dimensions to figure out what you need to start with, because after you get it, it's got to go over here and either get foam, gel coat, or fiberglass, and they got to put a certain amount of thickness on there. So you got to kind of figure that out mentally as well and say, okay, I should probably start off with like 1.5 inch or inch and 3/8 or something like that, just so that by the time
Mm-hmm.
they build everything back up, it's to the right size and shape. And then once they got it done, they would then give it back to us, and then we would go do the install.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
it got passed around the park quite a bit. So that's when I was with the Ironworkers Union. That's a funny thing. Like I did structural steel ironwork until I joined the Ironworkers Union, and then I didn't do any ironwork after that. Very little ironwork. I mean, we did quite a bit because we'd go through and do structural repairs on a lot of the shutdowns and stuff. But when we weren't doing
Mm-hmm.
that, it was all architectural, ornamental, theming type stuff. I mean, we built gates for Winnie the Pooh. So so like
Oh, okay.
the whole gate, it's all this underneath the queue line. It kind of looks like wood,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing stuck together, but it's all stainless steel. And so that stainless steel, and it's in nothing's straight, nothing's there's nothing square, nothing's level, nothing's plumb, and so you got to put it on there, and they call it theming. So you just go over to the bender, and you take a piece of 3/4 inch diameter stainless tube, and you just put like one little kink in it, and then you're like, okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. And then on the next one, you might put two little kinks in it, and then you tack that on there, but then you still have to maintain everything to code, so it can't be, none of your gaps can be greater than 4 inches, and the pinch points can't be smaller than 3/4 or something to that effect. I can't remember the numbers now, but you still had to stay within actual building code when you're building these
Mm-hmm.
theming parts. And then, that would
Mm-hmm.
get sent off to the gel coat guys or fiberglass. They'd get it all fixed up, and then they'd send it back. And you're like, holy shit. I mean, it looks like it looked like a sack of shit when it left, because it was just a bunch of stainless kind of welded together, all wappa-jawed and whatnot. And then now it's, it looks like an actual, tree. And so,
Right.
then you got to go out there and core drill it and set it. And that now it's got to be plumb and level. And you got to make sure you maintain the distance between the rails and all that stuff. So, but it was a lot of fun. We built like a couple of 7-foot tall pieces of grass. So that was kind of cool
Oh, really?
for Tinkerbell's meet and greet or whatever. So we built
Oh, okay.
a couple of trees in there. So everything, like when you walk in there, you're supposed to feel like a little fairy. So everything's like larger than life. Got to do some stuff out at the different sound stages, mounting a big mast for the Black Pearl for Jack Sparrow's ship
Okay.
and all that. Had to go out there
Yeah.
and put one of those in. I mean, we got to do some really cool stuff. What sucked is I couldn't take a lot of photos because it's all like
Yeah.
proprietary. Like if you can't,
Mm-hmm.
after the fact, I could buy a ticket and go through the park and take whatever pictures I want and post them. But like while we were building it, like behind the curtain, like you really couldn't show a lot of that stuff off.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that sucks about even some of the stuff that I'm doing now is I'm still limited in terms of a lot of the stuff sometimes that I can really show. I do have a lot of pictures, but I can't show a lot of them. Yeah, at least not until things were to air, or and then it would be a little bit different. Um, but yeah, it is kind of cool to see the inner workings of theme parks, and how they actually come together.
Hmm.
Like you were saying, it goes away just looking like you know a mess, stainless steel mess, but it comes back looking like a tree, and it's it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And like
Yeah,
nobody, not too many people. Like I said, a lot of people don't even know this segment of the industry exists. They don't think
no,
about it. They don't get exposed to it. So what you're doing on your Instagram page, like showing people, like here's some of the stuff I get to work on, and then oh yeah, by the way, here's some like little tricks of the trade for blending or doing planning out your welds and the different things that you're showing off on there. I think that's really cool. And I mean that's one of the things from our original conversation when we talked about is you're at this point in your life where you want to start giving back and teaching others and helping folks along
yeah.
the way. So I think what you got going on with your Instagram page is awesome.
I appreciate that. That's really all I'm trying to do is pass along the information that I have, and the things that I do and what I've learned. And it was luckily for me, it was given to me really freely, and it's changed my life. And I want to be able to help other guys and women to be able to do that as well. It's a great career that can do a lot for you other than just a paycheck. And you're absolutely right. And the entertainment industry and the scenic fabrication industry, there isn't a whole lot of that. And so being able to show a little bit of that aspect and put some light on that, I definitely am glad that that's kind of being seen. Because especially for guys that are a little bit more creative, it could be something that they could really, jump into and make a lot for themselves in a career path like that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you live in Florida or out in California, there's no shortage of scenic shops.
No, there isn't. That's where they're at. In fact, the old shop that I used to work at got bought out by a shop that their main headquarters is out in Florida. Um, yeah, if you're out in those areas, there's definitely work. You just got to know where to look for it.
Yeah.
What shops to go to.
I think I know which company you're talking about. They put up a whole new building here in Florida or got another building here in Florida a couple of years ago, and they called me up and I had to go out there and test a bunch of their welders.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it could be.
So it's funny
they
too.
do a lot of rock work
Yeah.
and amusement park work.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, that you do. It's funny because you go to one scenic shop, you test a bunch of guys, and then a couple weeks later, you go to another scenic shop, and then you start seeing a lot of these guys. They kind of bounce around from shop to shop.
yeah, there's a definitely some of that going on, and I mean, part of that unfortunately is the shop's workflow. They'll usually, when at least the shops that I've been at, they get these jobs and they're allocated for a certain number of months or years that they're going to be working on this contract, and they'll bring in the guys to do that, and when it's done, it's done. And if they don't have any more work to go in, then they got to bounce around. I've been lucky enough that I didn't really have to bounce around a whole lot. But that is something that you can end up running into, but it also gives you the opportunity to be able to learn from a lot of different people and to really hone your skills. And the more you do that, the more valuable you're going to be, and the more someone's going to want to keep you, at their shop as opposed to somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think like being multifaceted too. That's one thing I always tell people: if you're going to get into welding, don't pigeonhole yourself into one process. Because I mean, like you do all the different weld processes. You're doing flux core, you're doing aluminum MIG, you're doing TIG work. Do you guys do any stick welding at all?
I haven't done any stick welding.
Pretty minimal
in years. Yeah,
and you're doing a lot of different welding processes. So I mean, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one process. Like learn them all. Especially in that industry, because you never know what's going to walk through the door. Steel, stainless, aluminum. You get some like exotic materials from time to time. You want to be pretty flexible with that, and that's the one thing that kept me working. Especially during my apprenticeship. Because when the shutdown was over, they'd lay everybody off. Well,
Yeah.
because I already had these different welding processes under my belt, because most of the other guys, all they did was stick welding and flux core. They didn't mess around with any TIG. So because I had those abilities, they would keep me on and keep me working pretty much year round. I think I got laid off twice the
Mm-hmm.
whole time that I was out there, and it was like a short, voluntary type layoff. I was only gone for maybe a week at most, both times. But they pretty much kept me busy year round because I had those skills and abilities. But I had those, like
Yeah.
prior to joining the union, I had all those different welding processes. Um, but a lot of the guys that could just only do stick, they were some of the first to go because there was no stick welding on the next project. It was
Mm-hmm.
all, aluminum spool gun or, stainless TIG welding. So being pretty
Yeah.
versatile, learning the fabrication, that's going to help out tremendously.
Oh yeah, insane. And opportunities will end up just kind of coming to you at the same time. And being able to have the skills when those opportunities are presented is huge. Luckily, with my background, I did have the skills to be able to do the jobs that I've gotten. But that is a huge thing, and it's something that I try to tell my guys as well. Like, if we're a little slow, start working on something, start practicing, break the TIG machine out. Get on get on the spool gun. Why don't you start working on this cart that you were wanting to work on, but you're frustrated because you can't figure out how to fix the issue? Why don't you start working on your fab skills a little bit? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, you know, if we're building something, it might be easier to have them welded on the table, but I might end up having them weld it in position because there's gonna be times where down the road they're gonna have to get out of position and they're gonna have to know how to weld. How are you gonna get in a tight spot and be able to see where your joint is and still be able to do what you need to do?
Mhm.
You're not always going to be on the table. You're not always going to be comfortable. Get used to it.
Yeah.
You know,
No, for
those are
sure.
those are those are all things that are going to be beneficial. Yeah, you can take that easy route and pick that part up and weld it flat, but you're only shortchanging yourself. You know.
Yeah, it's always good to know how to weld out of positions. A lot of times, depending on what you're welding on, you're not going to be able to move it. You can't
Yeah.
rotate it. You can't lay it down flat. You can't flip it upside down. It's because it's too damn big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're stuck with what you got, and so you better figure out and learn how to be comfortable in that position and how to get the right position that you need to be able to see your joint and make that weld.
Yep. But learn the fundamentals and learn the basics first. Get good at those.
Exactly.
I get so many people all the time when I'm training them how to weld, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm trying to do it, uncomfortable. Well, why? Well, because I'm not always going to be comfortable when I'm doing this. Yeah, but you can't do it good sitting still, braced up and in a chair
Mm-hmm.
well enough yet. Like, get the fundamentals and the basics, learn how to make good welds being comfortable, and then start
Exactly.
putting yourself in awkward positions. And, but if you can't do it sitting at a bench nice and comfortable and produce a clean, good looking weld, you're not gonna be able to do it at a position uncomfortable. So focus on the fundamentals
Right.
and the basics first before you start to challenge yourself. Get those down, get those dialed in, and then kind of start progressing.
Yeah. Yep. That's same thing when I'm working with guys. I tell them basically the same thing. And I'll even a lot of times, at least my experience, guys tend to get a little overwhelmed with what they are looking at or paying attention to, and are they going too quick? Is their travel angle the right angle? Is it just focus on one thing. If you're having issues with one spot, and if you're having issues being able to see, okay, well, let's work on your positioning and let's work on where your head's at. If it's you're worried about burning through the material, okay, well, you know what, let's just stop and let's just pull the trigger and burn a hole. Watch it until it falls out and you see what it looks like. See how long it takes. And once you get some of those things that they're thinking about out of the way, then they can do it a little bit and not feel quite so overwhelmed.
Yeah, they start focusing on the work. Yeah. I always tell people, like, when you're welding, put down 3 welds before you change anything. Just put down 3 welds consistently. Because what a lot of people do, especially when they're learning, is they make one weld and then they make an adjustment, and then they make another weld and then they make another adjustment. And it's like, just put 3 welds down. Let's find out what you're consistently doing well and you're consistently not doing well. So 3 welds, then we got to, it's kind of like, shooting a rifle. We got to work on your grouping. If we can get your grouping here, then we can start moving that entire group over to the center. So make 3 welds. Let me find out, whether it's work angle, travel speed, whatever. Then we can work on that. But make 3, even if they're shitty looking welds, as long as they're consistently shitty, we know exactly what to work on.
Yeah.
And then just make one adjustment at a time. Put down, make one adjustment, put down 3 more welds. Okay. One of those, we got to weld or away from one of those discontinuities. Okay. We don't have porosity anymore. Cool. Your contact tip to work distance is great. All right. Now let's put 3 more welds down. Okay. You got a high ropey bead profile. Okay. You're moving too fast. Okay. Let's slow that down. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yep. There you go. Yep. And you're still same thing. You're breaking it down for them into small enough steps that they're not feeling overwhelmed or stressed. That's key.
Yeah, it's eating the elephant.
Huge.
Well, Shaun, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? I know you've got Instagram, you got LinkedIn. Just go ahead and plug your socials.
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best, and that's just the Driven Welder, and it's Welders spelled with an O-R. My LinkedIn is just at Shaun Graham on LinkedIn, and I've got a little bit of my art stuff up there. I've got some of my work stuff up there, and I've been putting in some videos that have some different techniques and different little tricks, and tips here and there, just to try to be able to help you guys out. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the DMs. I'd be more than happy to reach out to you and help you out in any way that I can.
Awesome, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the page is it's looking good. You got some really good content on there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate you having me on, Jason. It's been a great time chatting with you.
Oh, sure thing, man. Thanks for reaching out originally and, allow me to kind of give you some feedback and help you out a little bit.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, ladies and gents, I hope you all enjoyed the show. If you're finding these episodes beneficial to your welding journey, please leave me a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast and consider sharing the episodes with a friend. You can also stream episodes directly from my website, arcjunkies.com, and feel free to hit me up with any questions, comments, or concerns by sending an email to show@arcjunkies.com. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.